Fox 5 and Hot 97 present Street Soldiers with Lisa Evers.
I'm so glad you're joining us for this episode of Street Soldiers on social media addiction. We know social media can be a great way to connect with people and even entertain ourselves when we have time on our hands. But for a growing number of people, especially teens and young adults, it's taking over their lives and creating symptoms and issues just like drug or alcohol addictions. A widely cited study from Cal State Fullerton found that about 10% of Americans, roughly 33 million people, suffer from social media addiction. Many experts believe the percentage is more than double that for teens and young adults. The risks to youth are so pervasive, it's one of the greatest problems facing kids today, says personal injury attorney and social media victims advocate Matthew Bregman.
The saddest thing about this is that you could make social media 80% safer with a flip of a switch. You could make these changes in a week, and they're not doing it. And they're not doing it because it's simply because it would cost them some money.
Girls and women are inundated with unrealistic beauty standards and filtered images of hard to achieve beauty and body goals. They're right in the palms of their hands all day long. These images, whether real or enhanced, can drive them to extremes in dieting and even self-harm, says board-certified patient advocate Michelle Llamas.
Most of the things that I see are self-image related and wanting to be like the influencers that they see on social media. So this unfortunately ends up becoming things like eating disorders.
Social media addiction is a real issue that is raising growing concerns across all demographic groups, says board-certified psychiatrist Dr. Mina Meerholm. He's also an assistant professor at Columbia University Medical Center. Dr. Meerholm says social media is designed to retrain the brain to seek pleasure from the screen rather than real life, and that it can actually rewire brain neurotransmitters like an alcohol or drug addiction, making it especially harmful to people under 25.
What we're seeing is that it's impacting nearly 2/3 of folks in the country, and that we're seeing that people are checking their phone on average over 144 times a day. Oftentimes, for over 70% of people, it's more time that they're spending on their phone than they are with their partner or loved one or spouse.
We've got a very experienced panel to help us dive into this. Let's get right to it. Joining me is Michelle Llamas. She's a board-certified patient advocate with DrugWatch. Michelle, thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Also with us is Matthew Bregman. He is the founder of the Social Media Victims Law Center. Matthew, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
We appreciate it. Also with us is Dr. Mina Meerholm. He's a board-certified psychiatrist. He's also a professor of psychiatry at Columbia University Medical Center. Dr. Meerholm, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
We appreciate it. Dr. Meerholm, I want to start with you on this. How real is this? Is this just something that gets made up and people talk about, or is this a real addiction and a real mental health problem?
It's incredibly real, and what we're seeing is that it's becoming increasingly debilitating for people. Nearly 2/3 of Americans are saying that they're spending more than 4 hours a day on their phones and on their smartphones and on social media. And that's, for over 70% of people, that's more time that they're spending with their loved ones. So when you're looking at how much time you're spending on social media and how much you're allocating that time to things that you really care about, whether it's partnerships, relationships, work, or other things like that. And the average person is checking their phone 144 times a day. So when you're looking at that volume, that you're saying this is really getting in the way. And that's one of the ways that we look at a problem in mental health. Is this debilitating? Is it getting in the way of your function, the things that you love to learn, laugh, play in your everyday life? And what we're seeing that more and more is that this is a real problem that we have to address.
And is this a problem more for kids or for kids and adults?
We've seen actually a little bit of both. There were definitely a high concentration and a focus for adults and how this was modeled for kids. You know, we're seeing how things like Instagram were impacting body image for young teenage girls, and there were moments where folks had to testify in Congress. The leaders of these companies had to be held accountable for this. And we're even seeing that some states are beginning to take the step of having a warning label on cell phones used for young teens. But the data also tells us that adults are not doing a fantastic job of modeling this for young people, and we're all sort of in that boat together.
Absolutely. Michelle Llamas, you're a patient advocate, board certified. You work with different organizations. In terms of what you're seeing, like give us an idea of what kinds of things, what kinds of ways are people being harmed, or are these addictions showing up?
Most of the patients that I talk to, or rather their parents, because we have a large amount of teens and adolescents that contact us. And so, it's anything from mild anxiety and extra depression that they've never had before, to the extreme, which is self-harm. And I am fortunate enough not to have spoken to a family that has actually lost a child, but it's come pretty close. And so it's a big disruption on everyone's lives. Some of the kids have to leave school to get treatment. And so in my experience too, it's mostly young girls and teens that we hear from.
Matthew Bergman, you founded the Social Media Victims Law Center. What makes them a victim, or what kinds of things do you see? Give us a sense of what made you so passionate about really getting into this.
Well, I'd spent a career representing asbestos victims, and I saw so many corollaries between social media and asbestos. It's a ubiquitous product. It causes a public health crisis that we're seeing in this skyrocketing rate of mental health problems among youth. And we have incredible corporate misconduct. Kids do not become addicted to social media by accident. They become addicted to social media by design. The platforms are designed using very, very sophisticated psychosocial psychologists, neurologists, probabilistic reasoning, and artificial intelligence to addict kids, not by showing them what they want to see, but what they can't look away from. When kids are on social media, they're not the customer, they're the product. The social media companies are selling their advertising based on the amount of time that they can design their platforms to keep kids online. And so in order to change the model, you have to hold the social media companies responsible for their deliberate design decisions. That's what we're here to do.
We'll be back right after this.
We can see the changes that are happening in the brain in real time in these young people in the same way that you would somebody who's struggling with a substance use problem.
Matthew, in terms of the liability and the responsibility of social media companies, we've become accustomed to in America, there's certain products that have warning labels, certain products have advisories, certain products are just for people over 18 or over 21, that type of thing. How do you think the world of social media compares to that?
Very poorly. We're very, very pro-business at Social Media Victims Law Center. We just want social media companies to operate under the same rules that every other business does, which is use reasonable care. They have designed products to be addictive on purpose. They know that the products are harming kids. They know that through the documents that have been released so far, that 2/3 of girls think that Instagram makes them feel worse about themselves. We know about the profusion of eating disorders, the 148% increase in suicidality among young people, all as a result of social media. This is not an accident. This is not a coincidence. This is a design defect. If you had a car and the brakes failed 5 times out of 100, that would be a bad car. And yet,
Right.
for some reason, the social media companies say, well, because most kids don't develop eating disorders or take their lives because of social media, it must be safe. The fact is that we are in the midst of a horrific mental health crisis among our young people that coincides with, and we believe caused by, the profusion of social media among young people.
Dr. Mina Mirholm, though, what is it about the way social media is designed that it makes people keep going back to it?
It's designed to be almost like you're walking around with a slot machine in your pocket. There is both the instant gratification from the feedback that you're getting, the rush of dopamine that's going to hit the brain when you're seeing content that's going to be, there's a notification, there's someone that's paying attention. And then in addition to that, just like similar to what was mentioned, is an endless rabbit hole of more possibilities of content that is paying very close attention to what you're interested in, what you're afraid of, and is really drawing on the part of the brain, the amygdala, that's afraid of things or looking to protect itself. And that's why you wind up in a place where many of my patients will say, I don't know where the hours go. I just wind up in a place where I'm on social media for several hours. And to the credit of one state, similar to what was mentioned as well, Minnesota, is now saying a warning label needs to be put on social media use for young people, similar to there was a time where we said 4 out of 5 doctors recommend this brand of cigarettes. And now we're saying we just let young people be on social media without any kind of heads up. That's actually changing legally in one state. And I think I would hope to see more states take that stance as well.
Michelle, and talk with us about the girls. What kind of issues and problems have you seen these girls dealing with?
Well, a lot of the girls use social media for connection, for a sense of self. You know, that's what we've found in talking to the clients that have talked to us. And the problem with that is because the algorithms are so good at serving that same thing over and over and over, you're basically just compounding all of this stuff that's being fed into these young girls when they're so impressionable and they, you know, they want to belong, they want to fit in. They want to be like the pretty influencer, you know? And so the issue with that then is, of course, they start to develop a poor sense of self. And that's what leads to a lot of these self-harming behaviors. One of the young girls that, well, her family spoke to us, she developed 2 eating disorders over the course of her use of social media, anxiety and depression. And to the point where she had to be pulled out of school and put into inpatient treatment. We think that this stuff like drug addiction or alcohol addiction, but that's what this poor girl had to go through to get, you know, to heal from what had happened to her. So,
I mean,
No.
we have children who have who literally are hysterical when their parents take their phones away because their snap streaks will be declined. We have cases where children have taken their lives when their parents take their phone away from them.
What?
This is
Are you kidding? Oh
I'm
my
not kidding.
gosh.
I'm not kidding.
That's
Where
horrible. Matt, what about Matthew? What about the prank? You know, the prank aspect of it too. We've heard some stories where, especially for boys, you know, these crazy challenges or or some of the daredevil stunts that they do that can be extremely dangerous. Have you had any cases like that
I
where?
do. I represent the subway surfing victim in New York City, where a 15-year-old boy is deluged with videos showing him how cool it is to subway surf, and he's a 15-year-old boy. He makes he thinks like a 15-year-old boy. He wants to gain the approval and the adulation of his peers. He doesn't process risk the way adults do. And he got up in front of a subway and lost his life on the Williamsburg Bridge. Again, not an accident and a coincidence. And one of the worst things is if you look at the subway videos that this child was shown, enmeshed in those are advertisements by Instagram for products to buy in conjunction with the promotion of subway surfing. This has to stop. These companies have to be held accountable and held to the same standard that we hold every other responsible company in America to.
Dr. Mina Meerholm, in terms of the addictive part of it and how the brain works, for a woman that or a girl young woman that gets addicted to all of this, like how is that becoming addictive to her?
Yeah, we've sort of studied this pathway now of an addiction, from whether it's the nature of how you're delving deeper into an eating disorder or how social media is reinforcing a behavior. When something gets reinforced, think about anything that has sort of a positive reinforcement part. The
Right.
brain will send a signal to the body that says, this is good, do it again. This is good, do more of it. So that feel-good chemical of dopamine will say, let's keep doing this behavior, even if it's hurting our brain. And it'll begin to hijack the reward system of the brain to say, well, now it's been sort of taken over. So now this is what would usually give me pleasure or a sensation of what I should be doing that's healthy has now been morphed. And we see this even on a chemical level. We can see the changes that are happening in the brain in real time in these young people. In the same way that you would somebody who's struggling with a substance use problem, you can see the areas of the brain that are changing in size and really measuring that change.
It changes like your brain chemistry, it changes the way you think.
So
Like,
the research now out of the University of North Carolina has shown differential brain oxygenation rates based on frequency of checking behavior of social media over time. So kids' brain development is different based on the frequency of their checking behavior. We know this to be true now. So this is more
wow.
like this is a lot more like cigarettes and a lot less like just a bad habit that people pick up.
It's not even the length of time that you spend, it's the amount of times you're hitting that, fresh sequence every time you log on, which is another fascinating thing. You don't have to stay on there for 2 hours to have this bad effect happen.
And Michelle, do you feel like like that whole body positive movement where it was, that they were trying to say, okay, whatever your body shape is, you're beautiful. Did that have any impact at all, or it's just not even like a non-starter with these girls?
The issue with that is it's almost like a culture war. So what happens is there are not actually real experts discussing this. This is someone that just is speaking from wherever their experience is. But the way that everything is presented on social media, which is another issue, is that everyone's an expert. Every influencer is right. So especially for, impressionable kids, that they just want to look like that person, they don't even know if that person is doing what they recommend.
And Matthew, maybe you've had experience with
So,
this with some of your cases. There seems to be so many doctors, fake doctors. Everyone's calling themselves a doctor. All these, especially a lot of these health experts, they don't seem to really be doctors. Like, you can't
No,
find them.
you can go on some of these new chatbots, Character AI, and you can have a conversation with a doctor who's a chatbot, and the doctor will provide you with their credentials, where they did their internship, what they wrote, and they will give you what they purport to be psychological advice when they're simply a chatbot, where they're simply a machine, and there's no sentient human being behind it. Our kids are in a crisis situation. The alarm bells need to be ringing loud, and people throughout the country, across the political spectrum, need to come together and do something for our kids.
Matthew, is this whole social media thing, at the end of the day, is it all about money?
It's all about money. Meta has 4,000 data points on everybody, not just the people that subscribe to Instagram. And they can utilize this to target advertising to exactly what people want, which is why they include in their product features a design that keeps people online as much as possible. Their focus is not the quality of the online experience that people have. It's the amount of time that their eyes are looking at their screen from which they can be subjected to advertising. This is all about money. And until the social media companies have to bear the financial consequences of their design decisions, like any other company does, they're not going to change their behavior. You can't shame them out of doing what they're doing. And no matter how many congressional hearings you have, when Mark Zuckerberg has to turn around and talk to my clients who have lost kids, that's not going to change until they feel it in the pocketbook.
Michelle, what advice do you have, for young women and for the parents that are watching and listening to us?
It's difficult because I think we've mentioned this before. Young people have a hard time if you're speaking directly to them and telling them that, you shouldn't do this. That's the last thing that they want to hear.
Right.
And they've already had the emotional hits of the dopamine and everything from it. So it becomes then that the parents really have to step in and help. And I think there is just not enough information for parents on how to spot the signs and what to do. We definitely need more experts to get together and give resources to parents, because they're victims in this as well. They have to go through this with their child. And the guilt too. A lot of the parents are very guilty because they say, I should have seen this sooner, but it's really insidious.
Dr. Mina Mirholm, your advice for parents that they can actually do.
Here's the thing, I would say, bear this in mind if you're a parent. There is no addiction that cannot be treated if you have the right support. Always bear that in mind, even if you are paddling upstream, even if you are going against big corporations. The key here is be empowered by the information. First, know the actual, like if you're taking a medication or you're going through a surgery, you want to have informed consent. You want to know the risks, the benefits, and the alternatives. Once you know the risks of this and you're going to take some precautions, now say, how can I build a team to take back my family, both for me as an adult as well as for the child that I'm working with? Because whether it's heroin or it's social media, treatment is actually very effective. So please don't lose hope in the middle of the danger.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Street Soldiers on social media addiction. You can watch it again and share it on our Fox 5 NY YouTube page and in the Watch section on the Fox Local app. Remember, use your mind, it's your best weapon. I'm Lisa Evers. Let's push for peace, love, and justice for all.